We think a funding crisis is coming. There's no way we're going to be able to pay off all these debts. The amount of debt per American household, according to Pete Peterson, who has just written a book, The Great Patriot, is $460,000 per household. And, that number, I think, was calculated prior to these trillions of dollars of additional bailouts in the last year.
That's a staggering number that you're talking about. That debt load is just, as you said, it's really not realistic to ever look at paying that back. So the idea is to inflate our way out of that, I guess. But let me ask you something about all the money that's on the sidelines, David. We're having Bill Wagner on this week, as you know, and I was talking to him about money on the sidelines. And there is a lot of money on the sidelines. But where that capital goes really depends largely on the atmosphere that exists in any given region, correct? So, meaning there are very friendly places where you can have capital flows these days, where the economy has a lot of freedom, where the people have a lot of freedom, where there is some real growth or positive things happening. And what we have on the U.S. side is an increased police state, the possibility of capital controls. And so I guess my question for you, David, is why would that money flow back into U.S. stocks?
Well, certainly one of the things that Obama has done with the Chrysler bailout, where he came on TV and ripped the speculators, and essentially the agreement was completed where more of the restructured company was given to the unions, and the secured creditors that had the rule of law behind them got squeezed out to a smaller percentage. That's not great for people thinking about investing their money. When there is criticism of capitalists who have made a significant profit, that's why capitalists don't want to go back into partnership with the government on some of these PIP programs for public-private partnerships, etc. I think all of those prior actions do have consequences on capitalists, because capitalists want to be treated fairly. They want to recognize that the rule of law is being followed, and they have long memories. So your point's well taken.
Do you think, David, that we will have currency controls in the next 12 to 24 months, meaning more of a move to currency controls? They'll probably get worse and worse as we go along through this, but do you see that?
I think it is a given. I think that there are so many funding requirements that we're going to need to keep, the government's going to feel as if they have to keep the capital at home. And I do believe they are coming.
Let me move to a different topic here altogether. Because in the interview with Jim Rogers, he brought up the fact that really we were not supposed to have standing Army units, U.S. Army units in the United States on U.S. soil for use against U.S. citizens, and that law has been repealed. And right now in Texas, in your neck of the woods over there in Texas, David, they're training these United States soldiers and troops for use against U.S. citizens. How disturbing is that to you? Because I know you follow this type of stuff.
It's very, very disturbing, Eric. And frankly, I don't follow it as closely as you might think, but I have certainly heard about that from people. It's difficult to say what the plans are for that, but it's very, very disturbing.
When you look at the economy now, David, in closing here, what type of jobs are we creating here? Meaning, if people are going to talk about any type of sustainable recovery in the U.S., which you have the talking heads doing that on TV currently, you have to reindustrialize the country in reality and begin to have industrial output again. Is there any evidence of that you can see at all, David?
I really don't see it, Eric, and that brings up a great segue to a point I'd like to make, in that we believe that we need to move on to a period of reset. We need, as Jeff Immelt has said, we cannot continue to sustain this dysfunctional global system, as Doug Nolan, our portfolio manager at Federated, Prudent, Barron, talks about. We need to get back to a system of making goods. Why is it that we call our constituents consumers? Yes, they consume, but they consume if they produce. If you consume and you don't produce, you're essentially a deadbeat. Why should we encourage the entire country just to be consumers? I think we should start in this reset proposition to start talking about all of us as being producers. We need to think about making things and producing value that foreigners will need. And that's critically important. This whole mindset about consume your way to prosperity and the Bob McTeer mantra back from '02 that everything will be all right if we all hold hands and buy an SUV is frankly flawed logic. And we need to move away from that. We need to restructure. We're going to go through significant problems in this economy. However, I want to be optimistic down the road because of our free enterprise system, because of our Yankee ingenuity of American citizens, etc. But we have to start being guided correctly by our leaders, and we have to utilize some economic principles that make sense, and we have to recognize where we are and that we have some tough times ahead, but we have to reset.
In order to have a real recovery too, David, I know that was supposed to be the closing there, but don't we also have to have the constitutional rule of law and the freedom inside the economy, which in reality today is being taken away?
Exactly. That is our nation's greatest strength, is our freedom, our Constitution, as I said, the ingenuity of our American people, but we need the rule of law. We cannot undermine that in baby steps along the way. And the more we go that route, the more difficult it is to be optimistic about the future.
David Tice, Federated Prudent Bear Fund, thank you so much for joining us.
It was really a pleasure, Eric.
Thank you for joining us at KingWorldNews.com. Remember to tune in next week where we will have John Hathaway of the Tocqueville Funds, famed technical analyst Luis Yamada, as well as Michael Lewitt of Hart Capital. Also remember to go to our Gold Plus page for exclusive weekly interviews with Ted Butler and Gatta. And next week, special guests John Duty and John Rubino.